All right. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the HHC podcast. I am your host, Jacob Moreno, and I will be joined shortly by one of my brothers, Chris. But for now, we're going to start off this podcast solo dolo. I hope everybody's been having a wonderful early morning to their Sunday, and hopefully they're having a wonderful Sunday or early morning. um, I have been starting up my spring break off to a good note. Um, uh, like we had midterms through this last week, and I was able to kind of get through my projects, my exams, all that good stuff. And so I'm excited for a nice chill spring break to myself. Get to work on getting through this week. I've been starting to go to the gym a little bit more, so it's been a lot of personal things that I'm getting myself into. That through the spring break we're gonna get right, So, but we are here to talk about the San Antonio Spurs. We go live to you guys on all three platforms of Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Uh, at 10 a.m. at the 10 a.m.s where if you don't catch us live at the 10 a.m.s, then you can catch us on the VOD shortly thereafter. Make sure that you do follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk about the Spurs on the near daily. Uh, we love having the engagement with the Spurs Twitterverse. We love being able to talk Spurs basketball anytime we can. I know on my own personal account, I'm always having a lot of fun discourse and a lot of fun engagement with people to um, kind of just pick their brains. Also, like get my own opinion out there and just talk Spurs basketball because that's all we care about at the end of the day. But this week, we really didn't have a lot happening because we had one game at the beginning of the week with the Rockets, and we had one game at the end of the week with the Nuggets. But I was able to watch that Nuggets game. We were able to get a really nice win out of it. Jokic is Jokic. He's the kind of clear MVP winner at this point. I feel like there really shouldn't be a debate on who the MVP should be. I always like to say that Giannis is kind of in like the LeBron sense right now, where he is the de facto best player, but he's not going to get the MVP votes anymore. And so at that point, like Jokic is, I mean, his numbers speak for himself though. Like they don't really, you don't really need to have my argument to say that Jokic is going to be um, the MVP this year. Like he is doing that great, and he's been killer all year. So to get a 128 to 120 victory over him and the Nuggets when he scored when Jokic scored 35 points in it with the triple double, it was very satisfying to see us get a victory at the end of the night. Um, the one of the biggest things that I saw was that Jokic was the Nuggets were 25-0 whenever Jokic had a triple double. So the fact that he did get another triple double and we still won, it was wonderful. I was really happy to see all that kind of stuff. In terms of how the Spurs actually did, we had a lot of really good moments and a lot of really like ugly moments. Overall the game like kind of balanced itself out when it came to what was looking good and what wasn't looking good, because there were times when we looked like we couldn't be stopped on the floor offensively. There were times where the lineup that we had going out there was so killer, so fast paced, and anytime these guys got a board off a missed shot, they were out running, and nobody on the Nuggets could catch up to them. So we had a lot of good moments, but we also had plenty of moments where like as a Nuggets fan, you'd be upset that you lost to a team like San Antonio, especially with Jokic going off the way that he did. So there was a lot that happened in that game too. The things that I want to touch up on, I'll kind of leave them until Chris kind of gets here so that we can have more discourse on it. But one of the things that really made me happy was kind of the spacing on the floor. Just the fact that Malachi and Devin and Keldon Johnson were all out there at the same time at one point at some points through the game, and you're seeing three guys that are shooting, or at least Devin and Malkai shooting really well from 3 point line, and then Keldon Johnson who shot 60% from three this last night, 3 for 5 shooting from the 3 point line. It showed that like when we do have the proper spacing, Keldon Johnson looks good. There's nothing that's gonna really like you can't. There's a lot of people this year that have been having this Keldon Johnson discourse on whether or not he's been better or whether or not he's plateaued and he's just the way he is, he's not going to get any better or anything like that. But when we actually do have pieces around him that can shoot the ball, and he doesn't have to put the ball on the floor as many times as he's had to through the year, he's looking so much better. So Keldon Johnson this year has just been he's been killer. And that game showed me where it was like, okay, Malachi was putting the ball on the floor, Devin was putting the ball on the floor, and both times you would see Keldon Johnson be able to find himself in the corner and a wide open look. We're throwing the ball and sure somebody's closing out, but Keldon Johnson in the corner looked amazing. So it was one of those things where even like the first shot that he took that he made, or it might have been, I'm pretty sure it was the first shot that he took that he made. Um, you see like the ball like rattle in and out, and then it goes in, right? And so it kind of looked like, oh, even Keldon wasn't sure he was gonna like he wasn't as confident in the shot. The very next time he had the shot in that same corner, it was wet, like nothing like hit nothing but the net type of shot. So I just wanted to really, come out today and point out the fact that like when our team looks healthy and things like that, like the players are going to look a lot better. So, we're seeing guys like Devin and Tre kind of get back into form, but the guys that have been here, like Keldon, like Jeremy, like Malachi, they already look that much better just because Devin Vassell is on the court right now, and just because Tre Jones is the point guard off the bench right now. So again, the game was really good. Also, shout out Doug who went 100% from three, had 4 for 4 from 3 point line, 7 for 8 from the field. Doug was killer. I think Coach Malone for the Nuggets had I'm pretty sure he like quoted saying that like that the Nuggets made Doug McDermott look like an All NBA player, and that was funny because I mean Doug was out there doing his thing, and again we all were again the whole team was just on it, and they played a lot of team ball, and it was really good to just see Doug kind of do his thing. Chris, thank you for coming on. How are you doing, man?
Morning, Jake. I'm doing good. I was just running a little bit of errands, so I appreciate you jumping in closer to on time. But
No worries, no worries.
doing good. I was listening to most of your opening stuff too. Also, I'm glad to be on spring break. Haven't been quite as motivated as you just yet, so hopefully that kicks in tomorrow.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good. We I feel like one of the biggest reasons as to why I got so motivated to do things was because my San Antonio Spurs beat the Nuggets. I
hmm
saw it happen, and I was just like, man, anything's possible. So
And
it made me
and
feel
and,
like I
and
could do
there's
anything.
there's definitely those times when you're in college, spring break, the semester breaks are even more so when like you finish your round of exams and you just kind of have that relief, right? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's the good relief because you did well and you got good grades, and then it gives you this energy to like go and like you just are riding off this high in your break. Plus, you know that the college breaks are kind of long, not necessarily spring break, I guess, but or there's the other break, which is where you don't do so good on your finals and stuff, and then you're like, well, let me just not think about that for about a month.
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Well, Chris, we I was just talking about the game. We had again 128 to 120 win. I had brought up the points about Keldon Johnson spacing. I brought up Doug looking like an All NBA player. Uh, were you able to go back and look at some of the game
Yeah.
and
So
find some stuff?
I had watched the I was watching the game. I watched the first half, and then I had to go back and watch the second half. Yesterday I went back, and I'm glad I did too because it was just fun. It was just fun to see us in a competitive game down the stretch. Um, a game where you're kind of forced to have to make plays and find success and all that kind of stuff because like it's just as a basketball fan you like to see good basketball and you like to see things that are going right, it helps you see things a certain way. As Spurs fans, we kind of got accustomed and maybe even a little jaded to the point of always having very high standards of how we want the team to play, and so in a season like this, you kind of have those same standards, but you don't get to scratch that itch as much because you have to lower your standards at certain times. You have to lower your expectations. You have to be okay with a lot of things that normally for years and years and years, as Spurs fans, you were like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. There was a big list of things that it was like, these are just no-nos for being on the basketball court. And so, you have to rewire your brain a little bit. So it felt like one of those older games, right, where you just got to be in the mix and really feel like there were some meaningful things happening at the end of the game. And then obviously to see our guys kind of come out with the win, great. You know what I'm saying? I've been I think there was maybe 3 other wins this year, and I wouldn't be even able to tell you what they were, but maybe about 3 games this year that you might say would have been like, oh, these are like the best games we've had so far. But then a game like Denver comes along, and now all of a sudden it's like, is that our best win of the season? You know what I'm saying? So it's cool that we've been able to have that small conversation too, like when we do win, of like, is this our best? Is this the best one yet? You know what I mean? Because it was probably our most complete win. You know what I'm saying? We had the most amount of things going in terms of who was available. People were slotted in good roles and did a lot of really good things. Responded really well to Zach Collins having to not being able to finish the game. So you get Bassi stepping up and doing good things. You get Mamu
The
Kilishvili.
Mamu game.
Yeah, exactly right. You get him stepping in. And I wish I would have been on with you guys last week to kind of just talk a little bit about picking him up in the context of like Isaiah Roby kind of having to take the hit for him joining us, you know what I'm saying, and that, but that guy came in and was ready to. He did exactly what he said he was going to do, right? Which he said, I'm a glue guy. I'm here to fill in gaps. I'm here to do this, and he did all of that. You know what I'm saying? So I loved his decision making. He felt pretty aggressive, but he also he felt aggressive both in driving and in shooting. I don't know. You might be able to have an argument for, like I said, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other games across the year, but this is probably my favorite win of the year. You know what I'm saying? Just being able to see our guys out there and compete. Jeremy's I don't not that I was ever against him, but it's just tough to it's tough to latch on, right? And not that you feel like he's like his position with us is in jeopardy or anything like that. It's just been tough to latch on to our young players in the past 3 years because of how many changes we've made to our roster, right? So I've enjoyed every moment of him this year, but I don't know, man. Something about the Denver game, it's just like seeing him do it while we have Devin, while we have Keldon, and more of what our full team's gonna look like. Man, it was he's I don't know, second. He's got to be at least second, tied for second of my favorite player on the team now. You know what I'm saying? Like just you just have that. You have the trust in him, and that trust that his motor is always on. You trust that he's trying to make plays for the team. You know what I'm saying? Like just everything about that kid is just like I don't know, man. It reminds me a lot of Keldon, right? When Keldon gets going and you can just feel it, right? It makes you want to follow him, right? But he does it in a different way. He, even though he jabs and he talks and people want to get at him or whatever, but he just like, I don't know, he just stone face. Let's go. I love watching him play.
Mm-hmm.
So
No,
I
I agree. No, I mean it's good. I had to get on for the 7 minutes, and you got on for your little good rant. So we're good. We're good. We're right on track. But I'll piggyback off of what you said real quick because I like you were talking about the like tempering expectations for the game and stuff like that. And I kid you not, I came into the third quarter ready for Jokic to, in a sense, like for Bleacher Report or for whatever social media is to post Jokic masterclass going on, like something like that, right? Like
Yeah,
like I was
yeah.
waiting to see that and like us be like, all right, this was a 42-point quarter for the Nuggets, and we scored 7 points, and we just had
Yeah, I mean,
our heads held high for two quarters. Like,
how many times is it like we're competitive for the first quarter, for the second quarter we get punched in the third, and then we try our best to make it respectable in the fourth, or some version of that,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. And so I was ready to see that, and then, like, honestly, I wasn't at that point. I wasn't even like scoreboard watching. I'm literally just staring at the game, not even paying attention to the little line below me that tells me the score. And we're getting closer to the end of the third. I'm like, this game's still close. What's going on here? Like what? Like I'm like enjoying the basketball. And again, like I was saying, there's good basketball, there's bad basketball. I tend to kind of like I tend to like not think too much about the bad basketball just because of the year that it's been for us. So I'm only thinking about like, oh man, Keldon did pretty good this third quarter. It was nice seeing Jeremy do his thing. Like, like we're seeing a lot kind of going on right now. This is pretty nice. And then I look at the score and I'm like, wait a minute, we're still winning. Like what's going on here? Like we came back, we're winning now. Like what?
Yeah,
Like how is you know
just it does show you, because we've been competitive in a lot of games. You know what I'm saying? We've been competitive. We've had respectable showings many times, more than our record shows, right, or indicates. But it just shows you that it's small moments along those ways, right? And so you get a game where Doug McDermott gives you 20 points. That's because at opportune times, at the right times, he's hitting those shots. You know what I'm saying? Him and Jokic seem to trade their 3-pointers almost shot for shot. So you're canceling out their best players. Or let me say it this way: it almost felt like Joker's threes were the ones that were having to be in response to McDermott's threes. And in that case, we're on the offensive. You know what I'm saying? We're able to kind of hold them off instead, or I should say we're on the defensive, because we were kind of like holding a lead. You know what I'm saying? So we were able to get a lot of great stuff, man. Mamu came in again, like we were saying. Bassie didn't score a lot, but seeing Tre Jones get 14 and 8, 14 as he's trying to get his rhythm back against I can't remember who like their secondary point guard was last night or the other night. But regardless, maybe Reggie Jackson. But regardless, him starting to come in and feel a little bit better. It was just a great team win. It was a great. I was, like I said, probably my favorite game of the year, just because of how we played, for how long we played. Our opponent, right? Like you were talking about Jokic kind of being your consensus or being the consensus at this point, right? Projected winner or whatever, favorite for that three-time MVP or whatever, and it's funny, like when I see him now, he's kind of in the prime of the Jokic, heat, right? And we'll see how it translates to their future in the postseason and all that kind of stuff. And there's that big conversation that goes on too. Me personally, I probably, especially with Kevin Durant, like coming to Phoenix, and probably just rooting for Denver now, like straight up. I mean, maybe Boston and Milwaukee are kind of up there too, of like teams that I would be okay with, like, making a good run and going all the way. But in the West, I mean, it's a crapshoot, right, with the standings. But Denver's just a team that it's easy for me to root for a team like Denver. So like we're going into the game last night, and you could just see it. They're at the top of the mountain right now. They got the best player in the league right now. It allows Jamal Murray to just do his thing. Like, you can just see the gravitational pull. There's a lot of differences between a guy like him and Tim Duncan, but there's the similarities there too, right? It allows you could see his coaches out there like really trying to manage I don't know, like they're clicking. You could just see everything moving, right? So to see us be able to go in and have success against them, you know what I mean, and be in the thick of a fight with them, make their coach have to get up and work for this, you know what I'm saying, and also have a guy like Pop be able to flex those muscles again, you know what I'm saying, the same thing that I was saying earlier. Pop is one of the best for a reason, and it's because when you're in the middle of a game 5, game 6, game 7 of a playoff game, of a finals game, that guy can guide you through it. Now he just hasn't been able to sniff those moments in a while. You know what I'm saying? But so to see when the lights are on and we find ourselves in those fights, that we have the tools to make things happen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but now that the more that I talk about it, I'm like, this is probably by far my favorite game of the year. And maybe, I don't know, the Zach Collins stuff was funny. We could talk about that too.
Yeah, man. Speaking of the fights, my grandpa Javi had commented like what happened with the ejections, and Zach Collins is never afraid of anything. So I mean, I have gained like a new level of respect, like as I've matured a little bit, growing up and becoming like more and more critical of the game. I've gained a respect of these players that do go up, that aren't afraid to like, go and like just try to block any shot that they can, right? So it happens. You're gonna get dunked on. You go for every block. How, how many blocks per games do people usually average? You're gonna get maybe two at best.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where you're gonna get dunked on. It's gonna happen, and Zach is not afraid like to go up. So I respect him for that. And then once MPJ started taunting, I mean, I wasn't like I've never I don't think we've really talked about like how we feel about like how today's NBA, old NBA, yada yada yada. And I don't really want to get into that right now. But like still, MPJ gets called for taunting, and then Zach Collins goes up, and he's like, hey, I'm not gonna let this slide, kind of thing. And so at least not in the manner of getting called for taunting, but just in the manner of Zach Collins was not afraid to go up to MPJ after MPJ was talking mess. That's where I'm like, okay, like I love to see it, because Zach is never afraid to back down in that manner either. If he feels like what something is like, something was that disrespectful, then he's going to get up and he's going to
I,
start something.
I didn't see any like the post game stuff. Did he mention what was said to him? Because I mean, just in general, it kind of looked. The whole exchange just kind of looked a little mild, right? Like, yeah, you get dunked on, and then he obviously said something to him, right? Like that he felt was over the line. I would imagine, because I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
at the end of the day, he dunked on you, which is like a legal basketball move. He didn't really like get in your face. He looked at you. He said something to you. He directed it right at you, but he didn't like get in your space. And then he turned around and was running away. Zach Collins kind of hits him in the back with his chest a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm just curious, like, what did he say? Because, like, I mean, yeah, there is, like, what you said, there's that no back down mentality about Zach Collins, and you need a little bit of that, and you like a little bit of that. But it did just feel a little, like, again, like, a little mild. Like, I wonder what he said to make you run up on him.
No,
like, could you,
and
could
and
cooler
again,
heads
like,
have prevailed in that moment and you not get ejected? You know what I'm saying?
again, like I that some of that does kind of stem into a talk of like well, like how soft is the NBA today compared to back then, right? And because to me, when I saw the interaction happening live, like yes, I was like kind of getting a little hype. I was like, all right, something's going down. I didn't
I
think any of
mean,
it was worth getting ejected for. I
I
didn't
mean
think any of it was worth getting ejected for.
the hand to the throat probably got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
got M-
uh,
got MPJ ejected, but I didn't think anything Zach Collins did was going to be worth ejecting.
well, see,
So that's why
good.
in my head I was like, okay, like I get like at least like the hand to the throat thing, but other than that, the whole situation was so mild. Though, and like at least beforehand, before the little that little part kind of escalated a little bit,
Yeah.
that I didn't. I thought if anything, it would have been tech, and that was it.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I
and
think it felt like they, you kind of have to mitigate some of that sometimes when there's a scuffle, right? And then it's like, well, let me have if I give 2 counts of this thing here and 2 counts of this thing here, then it makes it, it's kind of like in the NFL, I feel like they do that a lot, right? Where there's a big kind of scramble, then they're like offsetting penalties. Like that, they just kind of throw that out there, right? Like, you did something wrong, let's squash it and move on. And so it felt like that's kind of what it was. It's like, well, they both kind of were. It was nothing, but at the same time, Porter Jr. did escalate it, and now it's something. We got to do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It did feel a little weird, yeah. That. They said like this guy is getting 2 technicals for this. and this guy's getting 2 technicals, and that's why there's an ejection. But they didn't say. Did they say like the first technical is this, the second technical is this? Like that is something that like the NFL referees do that I wish that the NBA referees would do. Like
a little bit more
they do it for the most part. Like they do it like 85% the same way. But there's just a couple times where I wish they would say right down the line, this is my like sometimes they'll say like the receiver didn't do this da 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 da, and then this is the penalty. You know what I'm saying?
And that's what happens on like challenges. You know, when it's like
yes, exactly. They do that on challenge as well. I wish they would do that all the time.
Yeah, no. Explain why the call happened. I mean, it would hold the refs to be that much more accountable, because then it is like a thing where it's like they have to say on live, on air, and everything like, hey, this is what we thought happened. This is why they got the call. You know, and so then it gives the audience at home, it gives the announcers, it gives everybody other than maybe like the fans in the audience itself.
Well, they have that little moment now where they go and kind of click the mic and talk to the camera, right? And that part is fine. I like that part. I just I want to keep.
And that's exactly what I'm saying is like that right there. That's gonna tell everybody except for the people in the stadium, which then the PA, like the people like over the intercom will say like da 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 da. They like reiterate exactly what the refs say,
And it doesn't have to be for every stoppage of play. You know what I'm saying? Because then you got the ref running up to that button every so much more often probably than a football game. So I don't need all that. But just like there's just certain times where like again like that double tech and I just feel like there's been other times where they've kind of give a half
little bit
explanation,
more clarification, right?
Yeah, of like what it is, but it's like, dang, I just want to know like. Exactly, like this is what we saw, and then that's it. Like I'm totally for the same way you're talking about like player accountability, and I know that there's been talks because there has been like a couple bad calls. Fred VanVleet got fined for talking a bunch of having some words against the ref, and I even saw the video where it said that it looked like he tried to like elbow Fred too, like or something like that. All that stuff's crazy, right? And I get that too. Like I'm pretty pro player on that side of the argument, but at the same time, I'm also pretty pro referee in the sense of like when you guys suit up to play the game, everybody is offering their that authority to the referee for the game. You know what I'm saying? And I'm okay with him kind of at that time saying like, hey, this is his call. He's the ref, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm also I respect the game on that front too. So if we can find a balance, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, and again, like that's why there like even though there was only one game, there is still a good little bit to get from the game because a lot happened. Whether that was the ejection, things that even like didn't happen because like and I didn't even notice this until after the fact, but like Devontae Graham didn't get any PT, and that's something that I was just like, in my head at like I'm watching the game, I'm entertained, everything's going on, and I didn't even think about. Man, we're not even playing DG today. No Romeo Langford minutes. But again, like at that point, I mean, I'm looking at the other guards playing today, and I'm like, well, all the other guards did good. You can't get,
Yeah, and then when you got Doug continuing to be hot throughout the game, then if you're gonna give minutes to the deep part of your bench, you're gonna go that way. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, exactly. And so it was something like that. I think. I am still a Kata Bates fan, but I kind of do lean to where like how Juan says, where sometimes I see him out on the court and I'm like, I wonder if something else would work better here.
Well,
like he's fine. He's fine. He does everything fine.
Like, here's the thing, though, is like you were talking last week about how like we're getting Sandro in, but that how you hate that it had to come at the expense of a guy like Isaiah Roby, and Isaiah Roby felt like we didn't give him as much time, and you compared it to Trey Lyles and all that, and I like all that comparison in terms of just kind of their skill set and how they didn't really like their path with us, right? I agree with you on all that, but at the same time, and I don't remember really Trey Lyles like the end of his time with us as much, but like I feel like one of the last games that Roby played, he started, and didn't even really finish the game. I don't know if he like tweaked his feet or his ankle or anything like that, because he ended up being out like with an ankle injury most of his last couple weeks with us anyway, or the last couple games or whatever. But it was just one of those things where even when he was in, it's like I'm not seeing him out there doing the things that KBD does. No offense, you know what I'm saying? And that's not much. KBD is out there, like you said, he's fine. He does his things fine. I never really got to see Roby do that. You know what I'm saying? I even to that level. Or you get a guy like Mamu come in and play, and I've
Show
never
his
seen
impact just because of the
Roby.
spacing.
I've never seen Roby come in and make an impact like that, and not doing anything crazy, just doing the things that he needed to do based off of where, like you said, the spacing on the floor, his size, and all that kind of stuff. Like Roby had size, Roby had speed. You know what I'm saying? Like he had tools, but I never really saw him try to put it out there 100% when when it was his time. So I mean, KBD does. I guess
No,
that's what I was trying to say, right? Is KBD seems to do it enough. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And it's getting to the point where he's now one of our like most tenured players. So like, the longer he stays, then he fits through these cracks, and you get a guy like Roby come in and go, and KBD still here. He just gets more and more solidified with the Spurs. You know what I mean? They're more inclined to just keep him around.
No, I agree, and I mean, I guess like we're talking about like kind of like the bigger forwards on our team, and it's something like that where I guess in my head I'm thinking like what can we do to kind of experiment with those minutes, because KBD got 13 minutes that game, and it's like, okay, so then what would have happened if I don't know if I would have liked seeing like DG out there during his time, right? But like, you in a sense, any other play that you're going out there, whether that's Devontae Graham, whether it's Romeo Langford, or even like if Blake Wesley had not, like if he got called up, and he was playing yesterday, like what would happen if you would have seen any of DG, Romeo Langford, Blake Wesley, like any of those guys get those minutes over Kata Bates,
Yeah.
um, and then in my head again, that's all like just experimental. It's just hypothetical because again, like KVD does everything fine. He does everything the right way. The same way that Mamu was, like you said, the same way that Mamu was doing his thing the right way. KBD does everything to a T. It's just
Yeah,
fine at the end of the day.
and then to be more specific, in a game where Zach Collins gets ejected, you need to make up his minutes, and you're not making up any Zach Collins minutes with Devontae Graham. You know what I'm saying? So Sandro gets 12, Kata Bates gets 13, Charles Bassey gets 15. That's a pretty even. You know what I'm saying? Like those three players right there help to mitigate you losing a guy like Zach Collins for the second half. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then so yeah, 26 minutes for Malkai, 25 minutes for Tre, and that's it. Those are your two like smaller guards. Everybody else, we were pretty big the rest of the game. Keldon, Jeremy, Zach, Devin, Doug, Bassey, Kata, Sandro. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's length everywhere. So
Yeah, no,
that's where we're headed.
and
That's where we're headed. I guess I'm down with that.
yeah. Well, and it does bring me to this point, because we had a couple things that I did want to talk about from this game, as well as just kind of a little bit of like what we've seen a little bit, and that was that we did see Malkai Branham start as the point guard against the Nuggets, and so it was something that, I mean, I'm an avid Tre Jones fan. I have always tried to be on his side and always tried to defend him. The lineup looked amazing though. Malachi, Devin, Keldon, Jeremy, Zach. It looked amazing in that first quarter and the second quarter that Zach was there. Like I was happy seeing all of that on the floor because of the spacing. Because it
Mm-hmm.
let Jeremy cook. It let Keldon get those wide open looks that I was talking about through the game. Not just in that first and second quarter, but um, like just the fact that people know that they have to step out on Malachi, the fact that they know that they have to step out on Devin, made Jeremy and Keldon look that much better in the first and second quarter. Zach was even hitting threes. I know he hit a three. Sorry, he was attempting threes at least. He
Yeah,
attempted
yeah.
five threes, and
I
none of
wasn't
them
I
looked
wasn't
bad in
a
my opinion.
I wasn't a big fan. I wasn't a big. You mean like the form of it, of his
Yeah, like
shots?
in a sense, just I'm s- no, I'm in a sense just saying like when he was taking them,
I
None of
see. I
them
see.
looked like it was like
I would probably disagree just only on the. I would say that there was like maybe there was probably like two or so 3-pointers that I felt like were either A rushed or B like there was just like one more pass that you got to make in my opinion maybe but there was for sure like what you're saying moments though where he catches the ball, he actually got his feet set and you're like that's it. That's the shot right there. I'm glad you were there and you saw the same opportunity, took it, and then I think that's when he made too. The one that he made was the one that was like made the most sense in my opinion. Out of the ones that he took, but I agree with what you're saying though. I enjoyed seeing Malkai out there. Or I should say when the game started, that was me reading into it a little bit more, and I normally try not to do that kind of stuff, but yeah, I was like interesting, like Tre Jones coming off the bench, is this he's still making his way back from injury, is this let's just experiment and see what it's like, do you like, you know what I'm saying, like I was curious as to that decision too. And then not to discredit Tre Jones, they both end up with Tre Jones has 25 minutes, Malkai has 26 minutes. Tre Jones leads the game in assists with 8. Probably sets the table for a guy like Doug most of the night. You know what I'm saying? Allows their second unit to have what we've been saying for 4 or 5 years now is just a functioning, point guard to run your bench unit. So I mean, and in all honesty, that's probably where the coaching staff has slotted Tre from the beginning of this year when they named him the starter. Is in the long term, we're most likely looking for you to lead our bench unit or something like that. So yeah. Again, just many reasons why I feel like this was one of my favorite games, just because we finally get to see most of the roster out there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, and so it was one thing though that again, like as much as I like I love the fact that like the game looked so well for everybody. There's just been that little bit of discourse for Tre that like I'm more focused on it now. I want to see Tre succeed. I want to see all of our other players succeed as well. So seeing Malaki be there at the point guard. Again, and we're saying that he was there at the point guard, but he wasn't playing point guard. He wasn't running a set.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I mean,
everybody,
his stat line was 4 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. So he wasn't impacting. He honestly didn't impact the game all that much from those points of views. But like what you were saying about just him being out on the floor and what that does for everybody else.
exactly. And so because literally again, like we're saying, like exactly what you're saying. I came into the game, I saw Malaki be the starting point guard, and I was just like, first little bit is my first initial thought is like, oh, people are gonna start trashing Tre Jones. My second thought is like, okay, well then let's see what's gonna happen. Let's see how this works. And literally, right at the beginning of the game, I'm seeing Jeremy Sohan have the ball going up the court. And it's like, okay, you're right, because if we're gonna run an actual set, Jeremy's going to be the point of the set. He's
Yeah.
going to be the person running, holding the ball, running the play, right? And then after that, then you're going to have Keldon, Devin, and Malaki all be able to run sets that aren't necessarily catered to you're the point guard of
Yeah,
this.
just
It's
go set
well, you're
screens
just
for each other
Mhm.
and
and you're
try to
just
find
the
lanes.
primary
And
ball handler. You're going to pass the ball to somebody else. Like easy things where it's not like a Tre Jones type of play. And so when I saw it, I was just like, okay, so we're not necessarily seeing Malaki be the point guard, but we're just seeing him fit better in this lineup. And I liked that because then I do get to kind of make my case of being like, again, Tre 5 for 7 from the field, 4 for 5 from the line. Like he was getting to the line. He was doing his thing. Again, 8 assists off the bench. Like that's everything that I want in a point guard. If my point guard's averaging 14 and 8 a game, my backup point guard is averaging 14 and 8 a game.
yeah.
Like that's all you need.
And if your backup point guard is averaging 14 and 8, that means somebody else is doing something like a Doug McDermott every game. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. You know what I mean? You're getting that bench production from 1 or 2 different guys just because you got that point guard out there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah,
Exactly.
I agree with you. And it's crazy what you're saying about, like, it's just crazy. I know we've said it before, but it's just crazy how like we're gonna have, or we've been having a guy like Jeremy who is now like what you said. Let's go out there and have you be the point. And then on the other side, he's like pretty much holding down a guy like Aaron Gordon, like the whole game. You know, just being size for size, being able to not limit his effectiveness all night. Help on a guy like Murray. Help on a guy like Jokic. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, yeah. There's a lot of good stuff. And then there was the few times where you give the ball to Devin, you let him do his spins and step back into these mid-range shots and all that kind of stuff. And we need that too, because we just need him to get back into rhythm and find
Exactly.
those, because we're gonna have to rely on him down the stretch at some point. And that's kind of why I'm down for these games. Like, the production is spread all over the place, is because, you know, you dream of a scenario a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, where you're relying on Keldon Johnson to win you a game, where you're relying on Devin Vassell to win you a game. Malkai is getting hot one night and he has to win you a game. Like, you want that for all these guys, you know what I'm saying? Because you feel like they can do it. So, and then you really hope for the day of like everybody's playing well in a playoff series and our opponent doesn't know what the hell to do, because it's pick your poison, you know what I'm saying? And we've been there before too, right? We've had the privilege of seeing that. So like, man, these guys, man, when they start to click, it's just fun to be around, fun to see.
No, exactly. And I mean, just like you're saying, it's like how many years in our many 50-win seasons, you know, in our literally like almost 20 plus years of constant 50-win seasons. Obviously, more than half of those games were won because Tim Duncan was down on the block, you know, doing his thing, right? But how many games do you think got added to that because Danny Green was hot one night, because Patty Mills was doing his thing, because George Hill, you know, and just, you know, going farther and farther back of your role players playing to the role that they need, you know? And so, I mean, again, just like you're saying, having this spread out attack like this, you're not going to see 20 points a game from Doug McDermott all the time. But man, it won you a game today. So it could happen, you know, like it's like one of those things where you're just getting you're literally being able to see that kind of stuff from everybody. And so
yeah, I mean, and every year we move on, we're adding one piece, theoretically, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So you just a guy like Doug doesn't have to do that at that point. You're relying on some other younger version of Doug McDermott to do that. You know what I'm saying, or whatever it may be.
Exactly. So, you know, that I think honestly the Malaki point guard thing wasn't even necessarily like the big thing. It was more just the lineups that we were running, because everybody was really flowing together. You know, that was kind of the biggest thing that I saw, was that like no matter who was on the court, there was synergy. You know, you didn't look at the court and you were like, oh no, Tre Jones is out there with Jeremy, who's out there with, you know, whatever, and now we're not with Jakob, you know, and now we're having three guys who are shooting 10% from the field or less, from 3-point or less, you know. And so then it's just like stuff like that where everybody looked comfortable out there on the court together. And again, even when you're seeing Malaki not hit every shot, when you're not seeing Charles Bassey take every shot or get lobs or anything like that, you know, like, it's fine. They did their role. They did their part today. You know, Bassey did step up. Even if Mamu was like the spotlight for the center role today, or not today, the other night, like, Bassey still had to step up, take those minutes, and guard Jokic as best as he could.
Yeah.
Before Mamu stepped up.
To be honest, when a guy like when Collins goes out and Bassey has to be that primary defender, if you just don't have to say Bassey's name the whole rest of the game, that's a win. You know what I'm saying? Versus how many times are you getting cooked by Jokic? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want that. So yeah, agreed. He came in and did everything we needed to, and it helps a guy like Mamu be able to make those plays. You know what I'm saying? Playing inside out and all that kind of stuff, and just being able to not capitalize, but I guess capitalize just off of the efforts of everybody. So it was a good team win, and then also just like I'm down for Sandro, man. I mean, literally just seeing him play one game, and I know it's, you know, it's one game, so take that for what it is. But just from watching him, it's like, you know, there's sometimes there's big men who play kind of small, and then there's some small men who play kind of big, right? And he's not small. He's like 6'10". I think he's only a few pounds small. He's a little smaller than Zach Collins, only a couple inches shorter than Zach Collins, but he matched up just as big, you know what I'm saying, as even a guy like Zach Collins. He has a lot of fire, but sometimes he plays a little small, and that's not his fault. I mean, well, maybe it is a little his fault, but that's just how it goes sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes your energy doesn't match how big you are, your size necessarily. And Sandro definitely played big. So I know we're kind of talking in circles a little bit about around this one game, because this was the only game we had this week. But
we had the Rockets game, but we're not going to talk about the Rockets game.
Yeah, yes, this was the highlight of the week for sure. I mean, the Rockets was good in the sense that I think it calmed a lot of people down, right? They were afraid of us like winning too much or whatever. So it was good to just calm everybody down. I guess we lost the 2 games to the Rockets. And I don't know, are we I know we're mathematically out of the playoffs already, but like, are we mathematically locked into the bottom 3, or is Charlotte still able to?
I don't think it's like that, but I think because like the Magic can still make the playoffs, and they're like, technically it's like us, the Pistons, and the Rockets, right? We're the only 3 teams that are officially eliminated, but like the Magic and the Hornets are only like a little bit ahead. Mm-hmm. And so then like while they're not like kicked out of playoffs yet, they could still drop to bottom 3. It's something like that. Like,
oh yeah.
Either way, we
have 17 wins. The Hornets have 22 wins. It's still going to be close. You're going to have to monitor that, and there might be a scenario 2 weeks from now or so, you know, where people are looking at Charlotte again and be like, oh dang, you know. So honestly, I would not put that energy towards your team and try to hope that your team loses. Watch the game, enjoy the game, let them play. Try to see, hope that your team is finding success, right, and finding things that work. And if you do want to speculate and you do want to put your hopes into like the flips of the coins and all that kind of stuff, then root for you know what I'm saying? Like, root for the Hornets to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, do that. You know what I'm saying? Root against the teams that the Hornets are playing, and just let that be your piece. You know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't understand how like people that want to see us tank like would be upset that we lost against the Nuggets. Like, it's like those people clearly didn't watch the game, because it was an entertaining basketball game. You know, it was a game that like showed so much of like what the future can hold for San Antonio, that like I was so happy watching us win a game like that. You know, I'm you know, just as high on Wemby as everyone else is at this point. I'm just as high on Scoot as everyone else is on this point. You know, like I would love to have either one of those guys on the Spurs next year. If I get one win against the Nuggets, I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be like, man, like this only ruins our chances at getting Scoot. This only ruins our chances at getting Wemby. So I am taking, like, as a Spurs fan, just got to take these games in and enjoy the fact that, you know, you won an entertaining basketball game like that, you know. And so we'll wrap up this Nuggets discussion, because the last thing that I did want to talk about was Tre Jones, and I already kind of did. So again, we'll just kind of wrap it up in the sense, just like that Tre had a really good game off the bench. There is some discourse just about people like not believing in him, not believing in KJ just because of this year and how it's been going for them. But I mean, again, the same way that Juan talked about how KJ had to be in a position that is not like fit for him. Well, maybe the starter position just isn't fit for Tre Jones, and especially isn't when you have Jeremy Sohan and Jakob on the starting lineup as well. So, you know, somebody has to go to the bench. Jakob obviously got traded, and it just made it the spacing that much better for our team. And Tre looked a lot better in this game. Again, he was able to get to the line because everybody around him is out of the paint. He's able to just crash on a guy like Jamal Murray, and get a bunch of fouls called. So he was even efficient. He's efficient from the field. Like you can't even be upset at 5 for 7 from the field with 8 assists. That's a really good game. And so his brother right now this season averages 10 points and 5 assists. Again, that's as a backup for one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I was saying this on Twitter the other day, 29 out of 30 teams would love to have Tyus Jones be their backup point guard. And I do think that 28 out of those 30 teams will want Tyus Jones because we're going to have Tre Jones. And it's going to be the same thing where we're getting consistent 10 and 5 from him every single night just because Tre is that smart, doesn't make bad decisions, and knows how to control the floor, especially when you're the backup on the team.
Yeah. Let me see his contract real quick, because I agree. And I when I am doing my 2K simulations and I'm kind of doing all that and scratching that part of my brain too and looking at those numbers, I love to have stability and shoring up like the 6, 7, and sometimes even like 8 man. I love to just feel very comfortable where I'm sitting at. You know what I mean? Saying so. He's a restricted agent going into next year. Qualifying offer will be $5.2 million. I'm curious to see what his market value would be. What does Tyus Jones make? Probably like closer to 12 or something.
Yeah, a little bit more than 10 for sure.
Let me see. Tyus
Yeah.
Jones.
So I mean,
Yeah,
he's
10.
just
Oh,
again
he'll be making 15 and 14 his
over the
next
next
couple
2.
years. Yeah. So I mean, you probably take
Split that
into
in half.
account the size difference. Tyus Jones is a little bit more established as a 3-point shooter, and you give Tre Jones a little bit more than that qualifying offer, and you put it around that 7.5, 8 million. And some people might say that 8 million is too much. I wouldn't say that. To bring stability and to solidify your backup position like that. And then if a guy like Wesley all of a sudden takes off, then you reevaluate. And he's a very, very friendly contract at that point. You know what I'm saying? So there's I agree with you. I think that's probably where his path is headed for us.
Exactly. So I mean, again, just don't be too low on these guys through the year, just because of the year that we're having. Devin Vassell went 5 for 14. Oh my goodness, he's not him anymore. He can score 20. Like it's like no, like that's not how this year's going. If somebody has a good game, you take that at face value. If somebody has a bad game, then it's growth. It's something that you can build upon. So it's just like again, like I really just wanted to come on today to really defend Tre on that. Um, Again, once as we're wrapping up the Nuggets discussion, like everybody had a good game. Nobody looked like they were an outlier, like had a bad game, even if the numbers said that they had a bad game, because everyone played their part, and no one was afraid to shoot. No one was deferring, like unless it was like a hot streak, like a Doug or Keldon at points in the game, right? But like for the most part, again, 7 shots from Malkai, that's good because you're keeping the defense honest. So again, everybody looked good for the night, and that Nuggets game was just really good to see. I agree with Chris whenever he says like probably favorite win of the year, just because it looked so good. So, the last thing I wanted to touch up on, this thing I've just been seeing over Twitter is just Keldon Johnson's like kind of his future, his position. I think I accidentally spelled that wrong, but um, what's it called? Like I just wanted to like kind of touch on what you thought Keldon could do for the team, and like pretty much one of the things that we were saying is like if a guy like Wemby really doesn't want to play center. We have to have a center in front of him, right? At that point, you have to move one of Devin, Keldon, or Jeremy to the bench because you're running Wemby at the 4, you're running one of Keldon, Jeremy at the 3, and then you're running one of Keldon, Devin at the 2. Like in a sense, most people are saying that you're going to move Keldon to the bench, and that is something that 2 years ago you're going to be fine with that. Halfway through
Yeah,
last year, you're going to be fine with that.
yeah,
At this point in time,
especially with his salary and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, are you paying Keldon Johnson to be 20 million off the bench? Like is that what we're trying to do?
I
And
mean,
and
my
so
my, my question, Mike, and this is kind of like where I start to sound like the old guy is like, Wemby doesn't want to play center. It's like what's the whole point of positionless basketball? And we're talking about putting the best players on the court and blah 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 and being versatile and being able to switch and guard and blah blah blah. Then that is going against that theory or that frame of mind. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, well, put if we get a guy like Victor, you're putting Jeremy, you're putting Keldon, you're putting Devin, you're putting Victor all out on the court at the same time. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you figure it out. That's why you gave the ball to Jeremy this year. You know what I'm saying? So you still have somebody to kind of start the process and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, if we get a guy like Scoot, that fits a lot more, right? You slide Tre over. Now you get you slide Malkai to the bench with Tre. Now you got a guy. Now you got Tre getting serving up Malkai all game. You get Scoot serving up everybody else on the starting lineup, right? Like, so that sounds like pretty easy to envision how it's going to be to see success. But to keep it where you're saying about KJ, like, I guess that's where I'm trying to say is I feel like he's a starter, right? He's a starter. I don't see you would have to draft, in my opinion, you would have to draft somebody that directly goes in competition with his position for him to lose that position. Draft or sign,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Wemby I don't think is moving him for me. Scoot's definitely not moving him for me. And then I don't really
and
know.
then if we end up drafting
I don't really know
because
the 3 through 5 who people are looking at. And I know that there's some wings, right? There's some wings that people
I
are
was about to
looking
say
at.
the 3 through 5 range are wings or big
Mhm.
forwards. They aren't centers.
So that's
They
a
aren't
different
point
question,
guards.
right? That's a different question. If you are drafting his replacement, well then you have those questions of, is he now on a timetable, and what are we going to have to make decision wise on a guy like Keldon Johnson? Yeah, I agreed that you're going to have to. If you're getting a guy like Wemby, if you're getting anybody who's going to play like a power forward center position, if you're getting anybody who's leaning towards that point guard, in my opinion, Keldon Johnson is still safe. I would go even beyond that, and not even touch that word of saying, like, is he not safe? Like, he is to me.
Yeah. No, I pretty much agree, honestly. Again, I feel like a lot of this discourse does come from just the fact that Keldon Johnson hasn't been a knockdown 3-point shooter this year. He's been a 20-point per game scorer. He has upped his efficiency around the rim, but he's just not hitting the 3 ball consistently.
Yeah.
Just I honestly will say give it literally the rest of
Another
this
reason why
month.
Tre Jones numbers and role might not be suited, like you were saying, they got a guy like Jakob out on the starting lineup with him. When Keldon Johnson's not hitting his shots, then Tre Jones, at the starting lineup isn't going to be as effective as well.
Exactly. So I mean, again, give. I honestly say if this lineup, if all of our players are healthy, if we look this healthy coming into the next week and the week after, pretty much just to the end of March, right? I would honestly say that we're gonna look so much better than we ever have, and it's going to be there are going to be some decent games going against OKC, going against Orlando, a jawless Memphis team, seeing Dejounte again within the next week, stuff like that, right? Like these games can be some entertaining basketball, and I'm hoping we're going to see some of the best Keldon Johnson that we've seen all year. And it happens. It happens after every All-Star break. After every All-Star break, we start to see somebody start to flourish on this team. So I'm hoping that Keldon Johnson is going to be coming back to form. As we do wrap it up, Chris, like, I mean, is there anything that you're going to be looking forward to? Again, like I said, we're playing against OKC, going against Orlando, Dallas,
I mean,
Memphis.
in
Um,
general, especially after a week, like somebody had tweeted out, like, even though this year, and they said it like a lot more casually and like with humor than I'm saying it now, but they said like even though this year has been really tough to watch, it's been kind of shitty not being able to watch any Spurs games this week. It's been like, what the heck, like where's the Spurs games? So to be honest, I'm just glad that we're playing so much today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, before we get on the and talk again, for our show. We get 4 games to talk about next week, so like just to have that is great. OKC is still a team that I consider like I feel like we're very close to them, even though they're theoretically ahead of us in terms of their rebuild and all that kind of stuff. I just don't feel like the gap's that big, so I'm excited, and that's today too. So I'm excited to be able to check that one out. The Orlando game, I haven't really watched Orlando this year at like hardly at all. The
Paulo's
the the
killer. Paulo's killer. Paulo's going to be entertaining to watch. It's going to be fun watching Paulo and Jeremy go against each other. That's
Nice,
going to
yeah.
be fun to watch. I,
Okay,
I
yeah,
would watch out
yeah.
for that
You're
one.
you're you're right. You're right. I haven't really seen Ben Carroll. Only a little, highlights here and there, and some of that kind of stuff. Dallas, I'm not really looking forward to. Memphis is one of those games where, okay, if we lose all 4 games this week, or sorry, if we can only win 1 game this week, and it would be like against Memphis, don't care if it's without Ja, I would love that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so if we can be competitive against the Grizzlies, if we can have a good fun, I would love if we're competitive against the Thunder and the Magic and the Grizzlies. I don't really care about the Mavericks. They're probably going to beat us, but I just don't really like watching them play. So yeah.
That's interesting. I've
That-
been I've been I've been enjoying some Luka Magic and some Kyrie play. So
I mean,
I don't know, man.
yeah, I like Kyrie as a basketball player. I like Luka as a basketball player too. It's just like there's not a lot of surprises with the Mavericks right now for me. So I don't feel the need to watch them. And yeah, maybe if I was more, I tried my best to be like more invested in the broader NBA this year. It's just tough, when you're doing a bunch of other stuff, and there's games every night, and so you just miss, right? And so all these teams are from the 13th seed all the way to whatever the 6th seed are 4 games away from each other. Only 6 games until you're at the 4th seed. So there's reasons to like all these to want to watch all these teams, but it's been tough. So yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Dallas gets the short end of the stick for me.
I mean, it's spring break for me, so I'm so glad I get to have 4 games of Spurs basketball to watch.
That's
I will be
that's a
watching
good point.
as much basketball as I can.
That's a
Like
good point.
I mean, my Monday is free with no Spurs, so I'll try to see what's on there Thursday and Saturday. Like, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to watch a game every day
and
this week
and
because
and, and this is the time. This is the time, right? We're gearing up for the postseason. Our team is going to be gearing up for the off season here pretty soon. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So, there's
No,
definitely reasons to watch. But again, it's just like I was saying earlier, like the Grizzlies. I'm not rooting for the Grizzlies. It's such a competitive race between these teams, right? Which is cool. But I'm not rooting for the Grizzlies to win. When you get KD on your team with Chris Paul and all those people, I'm not rooting for them to win anymore.
you're expected to win. You're not. You're
Yeah,
not.
exactly,
Yeah. You're
exactly.
not getting rooted for. You're expected to win. Injuries
Kawhi,
are.
no. Golden State has an outside shot for me to be like okay, because again, it's like it's sustained greatness, and it's and it gets harder to do the longer you do it, and we got to witness that. So anytime you see somebody have this prolonged success, you have to give them their respect, and B, when they are able to put it together, you have to just sit back and watch and enjoy it, right? So that's that's why I don't hate it. I've never been able to hate on like a guy like Tom Brady as much as other people, just because like he'll just do it again and do it again and do it again. So it's fun to watch.
You also benefit a lot more when you're seeing a guy like Steph Curry win, because it's the same, like not like not everybody did respect Timmy the way that like Spurs fans do. You know what I mean? Like in the sense of just like you stay with your team, you win with your team, you retire with your team. Steph's doing the exact same thing that Timmy did, and he's on a way bigger stage because
imagine
there's
if you win.
so many
imagine
more.
if you win 2 rings after Kevin Durant leaves. You know what I'm saying? Like it's crazy.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where you see Steph Curry win, you're just like, all right, like it helps the game. It does.
Yeah, I agree. So the Warriors have an outside shot of like, okay, like you can pull for them, right? But it's like they got to be like in the Western Conference Finals, and they're playing like the Clippers or something, and then it's like, okay, I'm rooting for the Warriors.
Yeah, exactly.
Timberwolves have been more tolerable to watch the less that cat plays. I literally almost said Cat Williams again, because you get to see Anthony Edwards have more of an identity for the team.
He's a dog, man. He's so talented. So talented.
And also like you could sense some immaturity from him as a young guy, as a 18-year-old, and you're afraid. I'm speaking for myself. I'm afraid when he goes to a team like Minnesota, and you're like is he going to be able to develop the way that he really could? And so I feel like right now he's kind of taking advantage of the void that's there, and he's all the quotes you hear from him now is, I don't really like resting, I want to be available, I want to do that. He's saying the right things, he's playing a good basketball, and they're in the mix, so they have like an even smaller chance, outside shot for me to root for them. Mavericks no, Lakers no, Jazz no, Pelicans no, Thunder no. And then way at the bottom is like the Blazers. If the Blazers for some reason got hot and they just rode Dame to the Western Finals, I'm down for that. You know what I'm saying? So Kings, yeah. Nuggets, yeah.
There we go. That's what I was waiting on, because you were talking about it earlier, and I wanted to kind of finish off today's pod with it, and that was like who you're like kind of rooting for, and I'm pretty much in the exact same boat, except I'm high on the Kings. I am high on the Kings. I love watching Sabonis and Fox. That 2-man duo is entertaining. If you have time this week to watch a Sacramento Kings game, watch a Sacramento Kings game, because you're seeing like two star players like do their thing. You're getting solid role playing from Malik Monk, from you were talking about like Doug McDermott, finding a younger Doug McDermott. Well, we have a quote unquote modern Matt Bonner in the Red Velvet, as Kevin Huerter is doing his thing, knockdown 3-point shooter.
They call him Red Velvet.
Yeah, that's his nickname, is the Red Velvet. And so the only thing that these guys have in common is that they're 3-point shooters and that they are redheads. I don't care. I'm calling him Matt Bonner 2.0. Like
they play Milwaukee tomorrow. That might be the one worth watching.
Exactly. So man, like De'Aaron Fox is a talented basketball player. Like everybody should know that Sabonis is a talented basketball player. They just, it's like one of those things where people just hate to watch foreign players play fundamental basketball. And that's exactly what he does, So it's just a good thing that Jokic is like so like his like stats are so great that like people have to watch it.
That stupid no-look pass to the left corner that Jokic did in like the first like 3 minutes of the game against the Spurs.
I know. Oh my goodness, man! Like again, like Jokic is just that entertaining on that manner. But like Sabonis gets less light than a guy like Jokic and less light than a guy like Luka. But he's so talented at the game too, man. And
yeah,
so
he's every time I see him play, he's bigger and stronger and more physical than like now I know, but yeah, it's just like for a while I would see him and I would have this envision in my head of like he's not like a center, and then I see him, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm wrong. What am I doing? He uses his size really well.
Exactly. So bonus is really good. Again, I could talk all day about De'Aaron Fox. We love to make our jokes about, oh, Jacob's a fan of everybody in the league, but De'Aaron Fox has always been one of my favorite players in the league. So, like him, we moved to the East, and I've talked about Donovan Mitchell before. The Cavs, like, are entertaining basketball team to watch. I'm always gonna hope that Giannis succeeds because of his come up and stuff like that. Like everything for Giannis and Milwaukee as an organization,
Yeah, agreed.
So Boston would be cool. I like Jason Tatum. I like Jalen Brown, and they're doing their thing again. They're not. I don't think anybody can really say that they're not going to be contending the exact same way that they were this last year. So
Yeah, and
I
you
would
know
say those
what?
are probably my
You know
top
what?
three out of the East.
Cleveland as well is a team. I know you've always been a Donovan Mitchell guy. I really like Garland. Just his and everything about him on the outside of the basketball court is what makes me like him. And then you watch him play
Yeah,
basketball, and you're like, "What the heck, man!" Like that kid is. I feel like he has very much potential, a lot like a Kyrie Irving, where he's just so
hmm
comfortable on the basketball court with the ball in his hand. It's crazy, and so you put the right tools around him and let him shoot well, and then they got size down low and all that kind of stuff, and then you hear all the stuff about them being so pumped to finally make it to the playoffs. You know that they could have and should have made it last year, but the injuries kind of derailed their season. So like they're ready to take a big swing on whoever they get. You know what I'm saying? Like their opponent. So
exactly.
Cavs would be easy to root for as well. I'm definitely adding them to the list. Cavs,
hmm
Celtics, Bucks are probably top three, or like the ones out of the East.
Exactly. Same for me. Like I think nobody else. I mean, obviously I'm always gonna be enjoying some Jimmy Butler. That man forced OT last night, I think. It was great to see. He's killer. Love Jimmy. No matter what, no matter how good or bad the Heat are doing,
If the
Jimmy's
Heat
Jimmy.
if
Like
the Heat
he's
were for
gonna will them.
somehow because right now they're at 36 wins, seventh seed. If they were to be able to catch New York at 39 wins and slide into that sixth seed, and then play Philly in the first round, uh, I'd be pulling for Miami for sure.
Yeah, of course, of course. No matter who's going against Philly, I'm rooting for the other team. I think
Yeah,
Philly's the only team out of the East that I just don't want to see.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
any of the other teams there, New York, Miami, who's the eighth seed right now?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. I mean, I'll root for Dejounte. I'll root for Dejounte. I'll always be a Dejounte fan, even if he has
Yeah,
me blocked on Twitter.
I'm kind of the same. The like I would root for Dejounte too. I would still root for
Exactly.
Dejounte.
So and Quinn Snyder's their coach now. Like we'll see if they're able to kind of turn it around. I was watching the game against the Wizards the other night, and it was interesting basketball to say the least. It was something that I wasn't particularly entertained by watching it, but it was.
Who
I
watching
mean,
who?
the Hawks against the Wizards,
Oh,
and those are
yeah.
two like right in the play-in playoff, like trying to be playoff contender type teams, and I wasn't like having fun watching it. I was just like, okay.
I
I was
mean,
like,
I
man,
mean,
I just
it is true. It is true. Like when you're a Western Conference team, which we are, like when you watch Eastern Conference, it has a different vibe to it. Like it definitely has a different feel to it. So when you're watching two Eastern teams play, you definitely feel like you're in another man's home watching basketball.
exactly. I was just like, man, and I watched the Kings Knicks for a school assignment the other night, and I was so entertained. I was just like, man, this is some great basketball going
Yeah,
on. Even
you
if
need
like the
you need
Knicks were
you need
kind of
that
like,
you need the Western Conference flair to
yeah,
to get thrown
but
in a
but
little bit.
think about who the Knicks coach is, and it's Tom Thibodeau, and like Tibbs was like, again, the Knicks look terrible. The Knicks look terrible, but those guys had like 800 offensive rebounds that night. So they just Josh Hart, kind of Mitchell Robinson, mainly Josh Hart, really. That man was just in all of the right places at all the right times, getting offensive rebounds, and you would see three shots from the exact same position get taken by either Julius Randle, Quentin Grimes, like whoever was right there, and you just see it clink, clink, and then finally something happened. You're just like, oh my goodness, like they finally scored, and Van Gundy was on the thing like talking about it. He's like, these guys are shooting terribly tonight, but they got all the offensive rebounds, so they're staying in the game. And I was just like, geez, man, like this is crazy, but basketball's entertaining. Basketball's
same thing.
entertaining no
Like,
matter what
can
it
you
is.
imagine like having to play the Nets too? It's like, not that they're incomplete. I mean, they have a version of themselves now that they are, post.
Now that Mikal Bridges is a 35-point per game scorer,
Yeah.
going
And
crazy.
okay, and you know what? I didn't really think about that. I kind of dismissed the Nets, thinking like, okay, they're in a free fall now. They lose their players, but Mikal Bridges is easy to root for. Patty Mills is still on their team. Who else do they have? Who else? Who are they led by over there now? I guess Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton, Mikal Bridges.
No, not really Cam Thomas. It's like
Spencer
you're seeing Spencer Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges every night. That's like who you're seeing. Cam Thomas, Cam
He's been
Thomas
like the flash in the pan kind of.
yeah, like he's been like 25 minutes, 40-point game, 0 minutes DMP. Like it's like he's so on and off on his playing time. I don't know what Jacques Vaughn's doing, because I mean, I can't tell. I have not been able to watch. I have not been able to catch a game where Cam Thomas is out there like
that
doing
must
his
be
thing.
that must be a tough seat right there where Jacques is at, because you're still trying to compete, or it's like you have those questions, right? It's, okay, this is who we got. We're not gifted, but we've put ourselves in a position with our old roster to be a top 5 seed right now. Are we good enough? Or how is this going to shake out? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That must be tough to be right in the middle. If you lose all your talent, usually when you get rid of all your talent, it's because you're on the verge. You're like that 7-8 seed, and your choice is to go lower. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
But
these guys
in
lost all their
Brooklyn's
talent
case,
and got put right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Brooklyn's case too, they don't even have their picks. So you're not
Yeah.
even
So I guess
not trying to fight for the bottom.
exactly. Their only hope is to be as competitive as possible. So I mean, in that regard, they would be on the same level for me as like Minnesota in terms of like an outside shot for me to like root for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably just, again, like you probably just don't expect them to really go anywhere. It's like, yeah, okay, if Brooklyn puts together a run where they're now sitting in the Eastern Finals, then you got to respect it, and you're like, okay, cool. I'll root for you to beat a Titan in the game, or a more established team.
We've pretty much seen it almost every year, at least two times in the last 3 years, where we're seeing quote unquote like Cinderella runs, teams that are in the Western Conference Finals that should Western or Eastern Conference and shouldn't be there, but they made it. Like they fought, and they grinded it out. They got there.
And it's a little like I don't want to say like underwhelming, but like when the Hawks made it, it was like, oh man, like
it was more underwhelming for the Hawks to make it, but when the Mavericks made it, it was still competitive.
No, you're right. Yeah, I think I'm definitely
Luka
thinking
versus
about
Steph,
I'm definitely thinking about the Hawks when I say that, because it was apparent like 76ers.
No one's gonna stop Giannis.
Yeah, 76ers choked, and they were the ones who had the much better shot of beating the Bucks, or making that a close competitive series, and that's the one that you want to see at that point. But I could see myself rooting for some of these first round exit, possibly most likely first round exit Eastern Conference teams too. But
to me, this is like, again, like this is when the NBA is most exciting, because you don't know who's coming out of either or. You can have your favorites. You can say that you think like the Bucks or the Celtics can make it out of the East pretty easily. You could say like Denver has a good shot of making it out of the West. You don't know that for sure, though. You don't know that for sure, because
I'll be honest. Like, again, the Kings. It's easy to root for the Kings, but it's hard to see them because you haven't seen it before. It's also kind of,
and that's exactly what I was going to say with Denver, though.
It's easy to write them off, though. You know what I'm saying? No,
you're
right. No,
it's a lot easier to write the Kings off. It's a lot easier to write the Kings off, but Denver hasn't made much noise.
You're right.
Either,
But
one
also it's like the Nuggets, and I'm taking it all the way back to like the bubble, right? And it's like you can just kind of see their progression, and it just feels like they're ready for it. You know what I'm saying? They finally got their horses back, and everything's clicking in the right way. It just feels like they're ready for it. So like it just gives you more of that confidence.
it's literally like kind of what you're saying with the Kings is like what people probably felt about the Nuggets near the bubble. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
literally like that right now, where it's literally like, okay, they're at the start of this nice playoff contention run where they're going to be competing for the next 3 years, 4 years, but by that third or fourth year, you're hoping that they're trying to get to that chip now, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
And I think
really
it's the
putting it
same way with the
together.
Kings right now, where it's like right now they're happy that they're in the playoffs because they're not going to be like they have not been in the playoffs since when? Since the
Now,
2000s. Like,
if this thing like stopped today and you get Kings versus the Wolves, I mean, you can easily now say, yeah, the Kings, you could see them
can
in the
take
second
that.
round.
They can take that. They
Yeah.
can see it in the
Uh,
second round.
um,
Exactly.
and then you're looking at a potential. It would be Warriors versus Grizzlies, in the first round. Which, dang, that'd be crazy. Honestly, I hope that that's a first round I hope that's a first round matchup because
Who are you
yeah,
saying? You said Warriors
uh
Grizzlies, right?
yeah, Warriors Grizzlies, which that would be
Okay.
a first round matchup right now. I would be I would be happy if that's where it stayed. I don't, because I don't think Memphis can win without Ja. So I would rather them just go out in the first round. But
Mm-hmm.
but let's say they were able to pull off an upset against the Warriors. I would be down for a slugfest between the underhanded Grizzlies team and the Kings in the second round too. So
Yeah.
now I'm
I
with you.
think
I still think that there are like heavy favorites in the West, but it is fun where you just don't really know what the matchups are going to be until, like, you know what I'm saying, they're just
mm-hmm.
going to keep moving around.
And
So
and as much as I don't like to say this, because I'm kind of showing my Kings flag here. Like this is me kind of saying like I think like when West playoffs start, I think Kings are gonna be at the top of my list of like I'm gonna watch every game, hoping that they're
yeah,
winning, all that stuff,
yeah.
right? But I think the one thing that I'm gonna be a little upset if I see the Lakers play the Kings in the first round, because I think that matchup favors the Lakers a lot better than it favors the
and
Kings,
and
and
history would come into it, and that
yeah,
the
like
even though like, okay, the Lakers play the Kings in the first round, within 1 minute the national media narrative is they're just going to be ready to be like, well, it was a great run for Sacramento, very inspiring stuff on LeBron's
yep,
title run and redemption arc and blah blah blah. Like, they would just
exactly.
be ready to slot the Kings right there, you know what I'm saying? So
hmm
uh
So
I'll be
it's
down.
one of
I'll be
those
down if the
things
Lakers. I'll
where
be down if the Lakers miss the playoffs. That's what I want.
yeah, I'll be down if the Lakers miss the playoffs too. But I'll say like if the Lakers are gonna make the playoffs, because right now they're kind of on a hot streak without
Yeah, they are.
LeBron. Like
Yeah.
we'll see kind of what's kind of gearing towards. I really hope Lonnie Walker gets back into this rotation soon.
No, that's
But
that's right. I would rather see Lonnie in the playoffs. I want to see Lonnie in the playoffs. Dejounte, Derek.
Derek, obviously, Yak,
I'm all Met too.
Raptors in the playoffs. Met too. Hey man, I've talked about this. I talked about
Yeah,
how
yeah,
how the
you're right.
Spurs
Metu, and Trey, both over there.
so many Spurs within like former Spurs within the playoff runs. Josh Richardson on the Pels.
Yeah,
I'm always gonna be
yeah,
happy seeing Josh
you're
Richardson play,
right.
man.
You're right. Jakob's gone over and made great impact with the Raptors. I would like to see them sneak in. Well, they're in a play-in game right now, so let's
hmm
keep them right there. There's a lot of like what you just said. All the Spurs that have been on our team the last like 3 or 4 years that are out there doing their thing. So I'll be down to see them all. DeMar too. Shoot, I need him in there too.
Yeah, if Chicago can pick it up, we'll see. But we do come on usually to talk about San Antonio Spurs, and we had a nice hour before we got into some nice regular basketball talk. But we do come on every Sunday at the 10 a.m.s to all three platforms of Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. All of which you can catch us live, but if you can't catch us during our live times, the VODs will be on all three platforms shortly thereafter. Make sure that you do follow us on Twitter at Heroes Half Court, where we do talk about the Spurs on the Near Daily. We love having the engagement with the Spurs Twitterverse because, again, there's just a lot of fun conversations that can be had. So many things that could be talked about within the Spurs organization, and just again, there's a lot that we love to talk about, not just with the Spurs, but with the NBA in general. So, Chris, as we do wrap it up, is there any last things that you want to say?
No, not really. Today was fun. Thanks for hopping on today, Jake. I enjoy these times, so go Spurs.
Of course, man. Exactly. So, with that being said, guys, I hope everybody does have a wonderful spring break. I hope whatever you're doing out there, everything's like doing good for you. And if it's not looking good so far, keep your heads up because just like the Spurs, you're probably going to rebuild. But you know, we'll be catching you guys next week again with four more games of basketball to talk about. And with that being said, you have a blessed day, and we are out. Peace.